Coming up on CHGO Cubs, Sammy strolls into Arizona. The vibes are immaculate. And who does Sammy think he reminds him of Sammy? Huh? I didn't get it all. Anyways, bad news on Matt Shaw. Plus, will PCA exceed projections in 2025? CHGO Cubs next. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast. It is Wednesday, February 26th, less than 3 weeks to the season opener out in Tokyo. Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody Delmendo with you, and also Sean Anderson running the ones and twos. We're in Studio B today, and the sickos have united on the live YouTube chat, which is the best place to enjoy the CHGO experience. We see a lot of them out there already. Gary's here, Becky's here. Godfather has jumped in, I see. Mr. Mohawk Timmy is there.
Craig is here.
Welcome, everybody.
Yeah. Happy, what is it, Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday. Hit the thumbs up on the way in, would you? Or on the way out. And Swaggy pointing out Sean's very fancy thumbnail for this show, the bleak oblique.
Yeah.
And he says, you proud of that? We're not just proud of it. We're submitting it for an Emmy.
Why wouldn't I be proud of that? My job is to write catchy thumbnails.
That's gold.
And you picked up on it immediately.
That's the thing that I like about this show, there.
I'll give credit where credit is due. You know that the Shaq meme, I was unfamiliar with your game. I just assumed that Luke came up with it.
The bleak oblique?
Yeah. But if Sean actually came up with it, if it was all Sean.
That was all Sean.
This is the Shaq meme. I was unfamiliar with your game.
Guess what, Cody? Shane saying it, Becky saying it. Audio's good. Not only can I write the thumbnail, I can actually have audio for the show.
Let's
go,
jinx it.
man.
Is there anything?
Don't touch anything.
This is sort of like wood. It's a particle board.
57 minutes left for me to ruin it.
It's been a tough week to start with the audio stuff. But hey, we battled through, and I give everyone who helped us yesterday and the day before a lot of credit.
Hey, our guy Rich Biesterfeld's on. He's checking us out. He's not at the field today, so he's catching us live. Welcome.
Let's go. Rich texted me right before the show, said that he loved the Cole Mathis interview from yesterday.
So you're telling me that, Rich would rather watch us than take pictures of Sammy Sosa? They probably got plenty of them yesterday. He's probably got enough. I saw Sammy was out there today giving Brujan more tips at the plate and watching Justin Turner. We'll talk about him in just a bit. But yeah, the headliner today was Bruce Levine was on 670 The Score this morning, and the way... Listen, he didn't necessarily report this. Yeah. He said it. It was sort of, the way I took it was sort of his opinion sort of stated as fact. He said, Matt Shaw's not going to Japan. And okay, so and then he followed it up like, if that hasn't been reported or announced by the team yet, but there's just no way it's going to happen. He's doing light cage work with coaches watching, meaning he's not taking like 30 hacks in a row. It's light swings. And like I said earlier, we're less than 3 weeks from that first game in Japan. I don't think it's earth-shattering. It's just that it's got to be, I agree with him, it's got to be a reality now. Bleak, yes. They always are. And we should have known better, even when it first happened, where they're like, "Oh, it's not that bad."
De La Cruz also coming after my job. Tweaked oblique.
That's solid. We could use that tomorrow if we need to, or when they officially announce that he's not going to Japan. But think about it from this perspective. I guess there's a couple reasons this is going on. And Gary says in the chat, "I'm concerned that Shaw might have to start the season at AAA." I think that's happening. I think that's going to happen.
You're fully going there?
Yeah.
You're putting your flag down?
Well, I think it's going to happen. First of all, it doesn't make sense to rush a guy. They were talking about him having to earn the spot in the first place, okay?
Yep.
Now what are you going to do? Rush him back and then have him try to have this crash course Cactus League action and then fly him all the way to Japan to play in 2 games that are going to be weird, and then fly him back and go to... Nah, it doesn't make sense. Let somebody else go over there and play those games. We can talk about that. Who should that be? Should it be Birdie? Should it be Workman? Brujan? Whoever you want to say could go over there and play some significant third base. We can debate that. And maybe that's going to be decided in the next 2.5 weeks. Maybe that's what they're really looking at. But I've also seen some stuff, and I will tell you, I don't know the facts of this, but there's apparently some different rules for the international games that allow a little bit of roster manipulation in that, listen, they're trying to decide if Brujan or Workman is the guy that's going to make the roster, right? The last spot on the roster. That's likely a decision that's being made. Which one of those guys fits better? Well, they don't have to decide that as quickly if Shaw starts the season in Iowa.
Right.
And you're not rushing him back, which just doesn't seem like it makes... It doesn't seem to make any sense to me. Why would you even try to right now?
With those two as well, we still don't know when Nico Horner is going to be back either.
Right. Potentially. Right. Potentially you could have...
Potentially they could just have both.
Early on.
Yeah.
Yes, both. And maybe at that point, then one of them starts to separate themselves and you have a better idea of Birdie, Brujan, Workman. Yeah. Who do I really want to count on for those last spots on the roster?
That's a really like doom and gloom when I say that. Like if you on opening day, if you don't have Matt Shaw or Nico Horner, like,
are you talking about the Cubs like stateside opener? Or are you talking about in Japan?
I'm talking about stateside at this point. Am I surprised that Bruce Levine said that? In many ways, I guess not, because like you have to, like you said, he hasn't even played in spring training action. Craig Counsell said on Saturday that, you know, they were hoping that this week he'd be out in the field and like taking fielding ground balls and throwing and then actually taking live BP. And we haven't seen it. It's Wednesday. I haven't seen it. Maybe Rich can let us know in the chat. I'd be kind of
surprised if he plays next week.
Right. Like for me at this point, I just want to see Matt Shaw get some spring training action. And if he does and he starts in Iowa, it's largely just because it was maybe we don't see it until sometime in March. Maybe it's mid-March. Maybe it's like right before they go to Japan. I'm not surprised that they said that Bruce said that. I think I'm frustrated because once again the Cubs are just making it they're making it seem like it's not that bad, but they don't have to make this feel like it's freaking brain surgery.
Well, like, it's like in hockey when they're like upper lower body injury and it's all. I understand if it was mid-season and you didn't want a team to know what pitching matchup worked well against a certain guy or who might be in there. I get that, but like we're so far off, and yet we're not. But does you think the Dodgers are really worried about whether or not Shaw's going to be in the lineup in 3 weeks?
No.
So why not just be honest? It's an oblique, and
to spin it. Maybe they're not saying it just because like they want Brujan and Workman to be like giving their all here and trying to earn this roster spot. I guess
they're not saying it because they don't have to.
Yeah,
that's why they're not saying it.
I would lean to believe that as well. So
and maybe they don't want to totally tell him right now you're not going to Japan because they want him to work and it's all crazy.
Right.
Oblique is like one of the worst things you can hear for a baseball player, right? Mm-hmm. Is it not? Like,
we've experienced it with Seiya Suzuki.
Forearm tightness in the forearm for a pitcher is something you don't want to hear. And an oblique for a hitter is just, I mean, Seiya has had multiple seasons derailed early on by the oblique.
The good news with Shaw that gives me some hope that we'll see him get into some spring training action at some point. And maybe I'm putting too much stock into it, but the way Craig Counsell was talking about Matt Shaw when he's asked about it, he's making it sound like they're hoping that he gets into some action soon. So that again, that's Craig Counsell. That's not Jed Hoyer or any like this is the manager of the Cubs. The way if you go listen to him again, I believe the last time he was asked about Matt Shaw was on Saturday. If you go watch that media session and he's asked about Shaw, it seemed like a very optimistic outlook. And then Matt Shaw himself has talked about how he doesn't think it's that big of a deal. So again, if it's too late to go to Japan, you got 3 weeks and you're behind and you don't want to ramp him up like the way that you're explaining it, fine. But if this guy is not ready by opening day stateside, then I'm really concerned, Luke.
Yeah.
Based off what everyone is saying. And is that me putting too much stock into what they're saying? Sure, but like they've talked about other guys and their oblique injuries before. They've talked about Seiya in the oblique stuff, and they have been a little bit more honest about that. So I'm just very confused with the whole, like, with everything they've said about Shaw in that injury. So
look what Rich is saying in the chat. He's saying his friend John Antonoff saw Shaw fielding ground balls yesterday, and he wasn't even throwing them across the field. Mm-hmm. It's just that I have been around in some form or fashion covering professional baseball for 25 plus years. Oblique is one that will come back over and over. It's different than it is for other sports. You don't hear as much in the NBA. He's out with an oblique. You don't hear it in the NFL. You don't hear it in hockey as much. You do hear it a little bit in hockey, but baseball's the one. And I don't remember when that started, because watching baseball as a kid, I don't remember hearing about oblique injuries.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's that rib cage area, and it's very sensitive. It's very easy to re-injure it, and it's why they were so slow with Seiya coming back. I think it's the right way to do it. It's disappointing because this is one of the, once they finally lost out on Bregman, everybody was chips in like, okay, let's see what Shaw's got.
Yep.
And you're still going to see that this season, but it's going to be delayed. Mm-hmm. And we're in a world now where nobody wants anything delayed.
Yeah.
Everybody wants everything now. All your information, gratification, all those things. We all want it instantly. We're gonna have to wait for Matt Shaw.
To me, it's not even just that. It's the fact that because of this, it's setting him back in the spring. It's the same thing I said about Owen Casey the other day. Spring's being set back, so even when he does come back, he's still got to get to a point to where when you enter a season, he's still got to get those at bats. So let's just expect, if we do see Matt Shaw on opening day, theoretically, that we have to not only give him time to see Major League at bats, but also not participating in spring training games, not getting those at bats.
Important.
It's important, and so
that's all of it is.
It's like, as a fan, you have to tell yourself all that, and then you have to give him the time. So it's already again, if he does make it to opening day stateside in Arizona, those are two big things. He's not getting at bats in spring training, and the oblique injury itself means a slower time for ramp up, meaning, I would expect a slow start.
Luke, to your point earlier, there was an MLB.com article about why oblique strains are so common in Major League Baseball. They saw an uptick in 2016. 56% of oblique injuries are suffered by hitters, 44% are suffered by pitchers, and 77% of oblique injuries occur on the contralateral side in both pitchers and hitters. That means if you're a lefty, it's on the right side. If you're a righty, it's on the left side. And they just say that players are bigger, faster, and stronger, which means the legs,
more muscle,
the legs are creating more force, and then that just leads to rotation damage. And one of the examples they use is Juan Lagares swinging and missing on a knuckleball. So I think it's just trying to put so much power and then swinging and missing, and that power going nowhere but your actual body. So it just seems like it's the whole thing of players are bigger, faster, and stronger. You're seeing guys throw 100 consistently. You're seeing 80 plus mile per hour bat speeds. It's just bigger, faster, stronger.
Why did
it's such a rotational sport?
Why did I never have an oblique injury when I played baseball? Because I weighed $125.
Exactly.
That's why.
I was watching the Laker Maverick game yesterday, and they described Spencer Dinwiddie as comfortable scoring the basketball. And I feel like I'm comfortable scoring the basketball. The biggest difference is I suck at scoring the basketball. He's pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
So should I blame launch angle and all of the analytical stuff?
Well, no, I mean that stuff is just
No,
finally
it's
being
just
measured, but those guys, people would be
guys are
getting
way more
bigger,
built.
faster, and stronger regardless.
Go back
So,
and watch the Sandberg game. Go back and watch the Sandberg game. Forget the steroids era. Just go back and watch the Sandberg game, and you will be blown away by how small the players are. I mean, their frames don't look anything like what you see at Major League Baseball. Even with, I mean, not that there aren't skinny guys in baseball now, but the average player doesn't look remotely like the guy that was playing in 1983, 84, 85.
And average fastball back then was probably under 90 or even at like 90, 91. Now average fastball is 95 miles per hour. So
Right.
it's just a bigger, faster game.
I asked that question because the approach that hitters are going up to the plate now is a lot different.
That too. Yeah, that too. Well, also their workout regimen, everything they're doing, the weightlifting. Guys didn't lift weights back then like they do now.
Just bring steroids back.
Speaking of
would
that,
help.
we will talk about. No, I'm not going to go there. Yeah, we're going to talk about Sammy in just a second. CHGO Godfather says steroids are amazing. We'll get to that in a second. First, a word from our sponsors. Hey, Illinois, get the ultimate winning combo with Circus Sports and Rosati's Pizza. Download and fund the Circus Sports Illinois app right now with just $20, and you score a free pizza.
Ooh.
Yeah, bet big and taste the win with Circus Sports and Rosati's. It's sports betting the way it should be with a little cheese on top. Visit circusports.com/Rosati's. Must be 21 and older. Exclusions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Hey guys, Hooters, an experience like no other based on years of hard work. Now, this is one of my favorite times of year, Cody. Right now, to hang out with friends and watch sports somewhere while I hammer some wings.
Hell yeah.
You want to watch madness up close? Check me out with a bib on and my hands covered up. Several orders of the honey barbecue and now the honey Thai chili pepper, my new favorite, after they brought them in here to the office last week. Oh, wow, madness it will be. Their new spring menu, by the way, coming out any day. Rumor is there's a killer cocktail deal coming in March.
Let's go.
That's a tease. I don't want to give away state secrets. I'm just telling you, killer cocktail deal coming next month. Hooters is the place to watch at tourney time. Cubs season coming quickly. You know, you want to watch the opener stateside? Good place to go do it is Hooters. Cheer on your favorite team from any one of their 11 Chicagoland Hooters locations: Aurora, Countryside, Downers Grove, Joliet, Lansing, Melrose Park, Oak Lawn, O'Hare, Orland Park, Schaumburg, and right downtown on Wells Street. You can even order online for pickup and delivery. Check them out at originalhooters.com.
I wish I was at Hooters last night when all 5 of my bets won.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
now you go, you get a little pizza.
Yeah.
Oh, that Rosati's deal, $20, you get a free pizza, and then you gambles them. Anyways,
Lamar came in clutch.
did that hit?
No, that one lost the other
That's
day.
the one that
thought you
lost.
went
He was-
undefeated.
He was so.
Well, that was 2 days ago.
Oh, that's
it all blends together.
I did have Derek White over 13.5 points last night, and he cashed. And I had the over in Gonzaga and Santa Clara, and that cash. And I had San Diego State minus 2.5.
I just want to throw out real quick, just on that last oblique discussion. Indiana Matt says, just don't swing and miss, and we won't have oblique injuries. Easy
There you
fix. Again, it's really hard to not swing and miss at a 96 mile per hour fastball,
Yes.
which is like the average of major league pitchers. And then also the ball moves much more. Now we know about seam shifted wake, and you can actually have that come off more consistently. That gives you more movement. That gives you more unpredictable movement. Hitting has never been harder, and I think I could confidently hit in the 80s. I could not make contact with a baseball now.
Well, I mean,
I would agree.
And nobody wants to go back to what baseball was. I'm not saying that. Like, nobody wants to go back to the physique the way it was. But yeah, pitchers blow out their arms more than they used to, and hitters are straining their oblique more than they used to. It's just the way it is. They're bigger, stronger. It's like, I don't know how else to explain it, but in baseball, the body has gotten so much bigger, so the force of everything they're doing is greater. Derrick Rose, his body couldn't hold all that muscle and explosion that went into that body, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure he has those injuries. I'm not a doctor, but I'm not sure he has those injuries if he's tall, skinny, but he's also not D Rose.
Right.
right? It's just times change, things change. Injuries have come along with the more explosive professional athlete.
Well, and Evil Wax saying pitchers get obliques and they aren't swinging at all. It's about the rotation. It's
Sure,
about
yeah, it's the twist.
I mean, well,
Golfers get it.
Well, yeah, right. And it's also, I mean, it's very similar movements. You are putting your front foot down and you are twisting with
Yeah.
your hips. The reason why pitchers don't get it as much is because they're not swinging and missing. They know where all that energy is going to be going, but still, you can damage an oblique when throwing 97 or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, Jay will tell
Jordan
you,
Wicks-
hockey, it's the slap shot.
Jordan Wicks hurt his oblique last year. So
It absolutely happens, but I think it's really bad for a hitter, and we've just seen it. When you hear oblique, you just don't know if a guy's going to be out. They say a month, and it could be 2 months, and you just don't know.
Lisea is such a great example because even just go last year, right? He didn't even hurt it swinging. He hurt it running to first base. And if you go look at his numbers before that oblique injury, he was off to a hot start. And then he goes on the injured list, comes back, and of course he struggled a little bit because A, he was out of the game for a little bit because of the injury, and B, like you just said, it doesn't go away right away. And I think this is because of Seiya. That's why I'm worried about Shaw, and then I can get real doom and gloom if you guys want me to.
No, let's not go there today.
About the whole Bregman thing and like the fact that right now our third baseman is either John Birdie or Gage Workman.
But they did somewhat. They did somewhat prepare for this, not the injury, but just that Shaw would go through struggles or whatnot as a rookie and might not be ready to grab the baton and run with it right away, right? That's why we've seen them sign, as I said, 75 utility guys to be at camp and go through this. So now there's a competition. We'll let the competition play out, and
it could
for a little while, more than one of those guys might be around to.
It could open up an opportunity for a guy like, you want to talk about like highly talented prospects. It could open up an opportunity for James Triantos.
Well, Nico could too. We just don't know how that's.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you could play Workman or Brujan all across the infield. Craig Counsell said yesterday that I think he prefers to play Workman at third base, but they've played him in the outfield a little bit. He said he feels like he could play shortstop too. You tell me he can't play second base? But I think they would rather play Triantos at second base than anywhere else.
Spring he has.
That's probably my best spin zone is like maybe we see James Triantos, early on in the season, which is not something that all offseason everyone thought the Cubs were going to trade him. So, who knows? But I think I wouldn't be so frustrated about this if I knew if there was a timetable for Horner, in which we still don't have one.
I would say don't sleep on Mr. Brujan. Why? Because he sat there and he talked to Sammy Sosa yesterday after we did this show, and he talked to him about hitting, and Sammy gave him a little advice, and he listened, and he went out and hit a tank next to bat. So I don't know exactly what Sammy said.
It's that easy, man.
But whatever Sammy told him, it worked.
Yeah.
Okay? And
Don't let him go
Sammy
home.
was talking to him again today. We might have a 50-homer guy in Brujan now, the way Sammy's working with these players. So Sammy shows up in camp. What a vibe. He's shaking hands even if you don't want to shake his hand.
Yeah.
He's shaking it. He's kissing babies that aren't even looking his way. He's waving to the crowd everywhere he goes.
Because he's a showman.
And it's a vibe. People are excited. Lots of Cubs fans are excited. He was asked today in the scrum this morning. He did some interviews. He was asked, would you want to be a coach? Obviously your advice seems to be working. He's like, we'll see. I'm happy to be here. He kind of played it off a little bit. But I think Sean has this. This was Sammy being asked about giving his advice to players at Cubs camp, not just Brujan, but players in general.
Great. Pretty much everybody listened to what I had to say, and they pay attention very there. And I may tell the way it is. I can see the difference when let's say hitter is not right. When the hitter is the shoulder fly, they have to stay there. They have to keep your head right there. So pretty much, and use your back leg. Pretty much all those things that that I did when I was playing.
That is from Marquis' Twitter. Great Twitter follow because Scott Chagnon, who takes these videos, gets them out and they're up and they're in. And you can hear Sammy minutes after it happens. And by the way, if he's wondering, we are listening and we are paying attention because from now on, rest of the show, reflective glasses on my head. Reflective glasses on my head. Anyways, so Marquis Twitter page, and don't forget to watch the 360 show that they do every afternoon. It's really good stuff. So we talked about it briefly yesterday. Do you buy the impact of Sammy Sosa showing up and having some sort of positive impact on one player, two players, any player?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what? Sutcliffe is there every year.
Sutcliffe's there every year.
Fergie's
Sandberg's
always
there
out
every year.
there.
Fergie.
Yeah, even Sandberg, despite the stuff he's got going on in his life right now, is out there every year.
Maddox used to be there back in the day. He used to show up a lot. I'm trying to think who else. Well, obviously Santo, Billy Williams. Sean Dunston has been there recently. They get a pretty good crew of guys coming back.
Mark Grace was there like the first week, right? I think it can change a guy's career or anything like that if they're struggling. I don't know about that, but remember whenever we first launched and Justin Steele had a nice conversation with John Lester?
Yes, it worked,
and then it changed the season. Remember
that's a great point, Cody.
This guy, the next guy I'll mention, he's not part of the Cubs organization, but he talked to someone and it worked. But Miguel Amaya and Nelson Cruz, right? Like he gave him some tips. He changed his batting stance, all these things, and his second half of last year was better, right? So whatever Sammy Sosa is going to say to some of these young guys, it's like when James Triantos was talking to King Griffey Jr. at the Futures game last year, right? It's like I said what I said yesterday about the first time I met you, even though I didn't know it was you because you're wearing a mask. Like taking these little things from guys who've been there, done that, and have been in whatever field it is. That it is a long lasting thing, no matter what job it is. So yeah, I think Sammy Sosa being at Cubs camp and the fact that he is who he is, and the aura that he gives off, like yeah, I think anyone should be listening to him, especially talking hitting. So
I would listen to him on hitting. Would I change my whole approach based on whatever Sammy Sosa said? No, because it worked for Sammy Sosa. But I don't think players are. It could be a tip on how often he worked out or where he put his workout along with when he took his batting practice or something simple like that. And sometimes it's just the motivation of I see what he did. I'm going to work harder because he told me, these guys have told me that way. Listen,
I just think a positive
it's not a bad thing, and we know it's great for the fans. Yeah. I'm not going to put too much value into it, but I'm also not going to discredit it completely. I like that the Cubs have former players that want to come back and teach young kids who may not have ever even seen them play.
Yeah. Hey, listen, was it awesome that Sammy Sosa gave Brujan some advice and then he went out there and hit a homer? Absolutely.
Well, Brujan was talking to him again today, so he liked the advice enough. Now, there's another guy out there that we haven't been talking about, and Alcantara's looked pretty good in early games, right? Like
we haven't talked about Alcantara enough.
We haven't talked about enough. Well, one guy who did talk about him today was Sammy Sosa via Marquis.
Remind me when I was coming up. I mean, I was cocky. I was confident. I mean, cocky meaning when you're confident, when you're not afraid. So I got Alcantara had those two. If he already prophesied that, I mean, definitely it's going to happen because I mean, he can hit, he can swing, he can make contact. So I think he's going to be a very, very good player.
I like that. I like to hear that. Sammy thinks Alcantara reminds him of Sammy.
Well, Alcantara's got aura, man. You want to talk?
No, he's cocky, according to Sammy.
Well,
he's a little cocky, and then he explained the word cocky to us.
How many times have I used the term aura in Sammy Sosa in the last month? Right. So
yes.
I listen. If Sammy Sosa is viewing him like how he kind of viewed himself from a personality standpoint, stuff like that, like I just find that incredibly awesome. I'll just say that much.
Sammy being Sammy. Yeah. We're going to take a quick break to talk about some of our sponsors, and then we're going to get back to the Sammy conversation and more, including PCA. But first, The Chicago winter can be brutal, but Toyota helps make it easier. Toyota has 25 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. They have more than any other auto brand out there. From the sleek Camry all-wheel drive, wow, is that a dependable vehicle, to the Corolla hybrid all-wheel drive. The Toyota Tundra is a truck that's known for its power, durability, and off-road capabilities, perfect for Chicago winters. Yeah, you think the winter's over because it's thawing. And Cody thought about, taking a scooter yesterday. Trust me, it's going to be back. There's always a storm around St. Paddy's Day. Loading up for a tailgate party, maybe? The spacious Grand Highlander, the perfect ride with all-wheel drive to keep you and yours safe. So bring the action, and Toyota will bring the traction.
Ooh.
Huh? Toyota, let's go places. Listen, if you're looking for a car right now and you live in Chicago, you have to have a car. If you can afford just a little extra bump, the all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, it's absolutely necessary. It's absolutely necessary if you live in Chicago. And it's necessary like 3/4 of the year. Right?
Yeah.
And it's available on cars like the Camry, the all-wheel drive. So it's no longer just you have to have a big pickup truck with four-wheel drive. So they've got it every 25 vehicles. That's a lot. More than anybody.
I've driven a Camry before. Those things are nice.
It's the most dependent. Like, it's the car out there.
Absolutely.
You want to have a good car, Camry's the way to go.
Okay.
And it's got all-wheel drive.
I can get some cornbread hemp in my Toyota if you want me to.
That seems like a bad idea.
They deliver it. You cannot drive to pick this up. It is you order it online and they deliver it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
See, I'm sorry. Thank you, Sean.
You're just beholden to
I know.
weaving the ads together.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It's a problem. It's a problem.
You know what has four-wheel drive is cornbread hemp.
Big credit to me for taking ownership in how much I just messed that up. Anyway, I can tell you the actual facts.
You've got a cold. You're a little foggy.
I do have a cold, and it is what it is. I'm battling over here. All right. Cornbread Hemp's America's first ever USDA organic CBD company. Their mission is to improve your quality of life with the highest quality hemp. I could use some with this freaking cold I have right now to get me through the rest of this day. All right. Their gummies are made to help you feel better, whether it's stress, discomfort, or just needing a little relaxation. Luke, I know you got 2 kids. You could absolutely use some of this stuff. All right. They use the best part of the hemp plant, the flower, for the purest and most potent CBD formulated to help relieve, again, discomfort, stress, and sleeplessness. I am a night owl. I can't go to bed at a decent time. This stuff is game changing. All right. So right now they're offering CHGO listeners 30% off your first order. 30% off, Luke. All right. Just visit.
Great deal.
Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO and use promo code CHGO at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO and use code CHGO for 30% off your first order. This is the good life. And again, online. You cannot drive to go get it.
So in this show today, we've talked about Matt Shaw, who seems like he's not going to be there in Japan when the season starts on the 18th. We've talked, obviously, the number 1 prospect. We've talked about Alcantara. Sammy says Alcantara reminds him of Sammy 2.0, another top 100 prospect for the Cubs. Now, they had another guy, and we're going to talk about PCA, who was also a top 100 prospect at one time, but they also had another guy named Cam Smith, and I don't want to worry anybody.
Here we go.
But he's already hit 2 home runs for the Astros.
And I think he had 2 walks yesterday, too.
So, if Barb's mad about the whole thing about trading for Michael Busch,
I think
wait till it's 1 season of Tucker.
And
Cam Smith is hitting 30 home runs a year.
I think Barb should be more upset about the Tucker trade than the Michael Busch trade, personally. Because at least with the Tucker trade, there is reason to have some worry because no one thinks the Cubs are going to give Kyle Tucker a long-term deal. And based off everything that's come out about ownership the last, 6 weeks.
You know who's going to talk Tucker into a deal?
Us?
Sammy. He's
Sammy?
going to come in with his shades on,
Right?
give him a little advice.
I'm just saying, like, I'm still here saying that it was the right move to do. I still, like, I'm here.
fine with it.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
But, you know, objectively, I just think that it's a little bit more concerning than the Michael Busch trade, in my opinion.
It's concerning when he starts Cactus League play with 2 home runs or spring training play with 2 home runs.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
all right.
He's still 2 years away from making his debut. Anything can happen. We've seen you love to bring up Brennan Davis.
That's Grapefruit League, right?
Yeah. In
Astros? Yeah, Florida.
So at least this, though. Does the trade matter? Is there a winner or loser if the Cubs sign Tucker? Because if the Cubs re-sign Tucker, then you don't care about giving
no,
Case back at all.
absolutely not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a win. I would honestly think it's probably a win-win because the Astros are still getting all those controllable years of Paredes and Hayden Wisniewski, and then they'll have Cam Smith in a couple years. The Astro system's so bad that Cam Smith was immediately named their #1 prospect in their system.
Let's simplify it because Eva Wax is saying I don't think there's a chance either that they extend Tucker. If it's 1 year of Tucker, but the Cubs win the division and give you playoff baseball, I don't know and he has a great season that helped propel you to winning the division and getting back to the playoffs finally and build a winning tradition. But he leaves, and Cam Smith goes out and turns out to be a really good player. Was it worth it?
It depends on what they do after, I guess. It depends. It depends.
Still, in my eyes, it still could be worth it. Now, if he becomes a perennial all-star and you got 1 year and made the playoffs, and then the following year and years you don't make the playoffs,
exactly,
then it wouldn't be worth it. That would be the scenario.
It depends on what they like. Let's look at it from the Yankees' perspective. They tried to get Juan Soto or re-sign Juan Soto on the 1 year deal. They traded all those prospects to the Padres, and then they had Soto for 1 year. He had an incredible season, right? They made it up for it by getting Bellinger. They signed Max Fried, all these other things. It just really comes down to how the Cubs react. If they're just going to let Tucker walk and Alcantara or Casey are your replacement, and they don't really add another star player, like they don't, they're not in the Vladimir Guerrero sweepstakes. If it comes to that, or if they do not add a different star player, and you don't go on to be a perennial playoff team, then fans are going to sit here and talk about that trade for years and years, especially if Cam Smith goes on to be awesome. So. I will too. Like the risk, the reason that I was so pro for this trade back in December was because you needed a star and you went and got him. And it seemed like at the time that this organization was going to finally start flexing that financial muscle at some point. I didn't expect them to extend Kyle Tucker this offseason, but I am expecting them to be at the table and legitimately trying to bring him back. If he is the best player on this team and you go to the playoffs, you win the division, if they are not at the table for Kyle Tucker, there will be more said about this organization from the very top than we could ever say. You could make all the arguments about how they didn't bring back, they didn't extend Rizzo, Bryant, Bias, all those. In hindsight, it was the right move. But if you do not extend Kyle Tucker, whenever that is, while he is in the prime of his career, and if he goes on to give you the best season of any player on this team, and you finally get back to the playoffs after 7 years of not making the playoffs, we got massive problems. I don't care about the CBA at the end of 2026. Like, the potential lockout, I legitimately do not care. No fan cares. And honestly, the Cubs shouldn't care because they can make plenty of money off Kyle Tucker because he is considered one of the top 20 players in baseball. They will make money if they're winning. I understand I'm like yelling at a wall with this because no one thinks it's going to happen. I get it.
But it is true.
But it's
when
true.
you win, you make money, period. And I will say this. Like we did beg last season. How many times after a post game did I say they have no superstar? They have no superstar. Who are they? What team would be afraid of anybody in this line? Nobody's pitching around somebody in the Cubs lineup. They have good players, but nobody's like, I can't pitch to this guy. He's going to ruin us for the whole weekend. Tucker is that type of player.
3 walks yesterday.
And if what we know is true about all of the restrictions they're putting on themselves, again, I'm with you on all of that. But if the restrictions are there, and we said to Jed Hoyer, I don't care how you do it, you've got to go get yourself a superstar. Well, he got him, and it may actually be the only way under the restrictions that he has and partially created himself. It may be the only way he could have gotten it. He couldn't sign Soto because he couldn't sign the contract.
Right.
He couldn't get other big name guys because he's so. Now, maybe you could argue Bregman could have happened if they would have offered a bigger thing. I would argue that Tucker is a bigger star, and I would rather have him long-term moving forward. Sure. But it is absolutely very likely that it is a rental, and that's the way they got their star.
Yeah. And
a 1-year star.
It's frustrating because you're supposed to be, excuse me, sorry.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be in a winning window. You have your top tier prospects coming up, right? We're sitting here talking about Kevin Alcantara. We're talking about Cade Horton, PCA debut. Like you are in a position, no matter what happens this year, whether you make the playoffs, win the division, whatever, you're in a position where this is the time where you invest in the cornerstone piece. So it will just be, if Kyle Tucker has a 5 WAR or higher season, and he is undoubtedly the best player on your team, and you do all these things, and you were not at the table to give a competitive offer for this guy, it will be my biggest detriment on this ownership group than any of the other stuff during the post-World Series stuff. Because I gave excuses in 22 and even going into 23. And they signed Swanson, whatever. But you are entering, you're supposed to be in a winning window.
Supposed to be in it. I don't think any Cubs fan wants Tucker to be a bridge, to extend the bridge of winning to the youth movement, right?
Yeah.
That's not what you're looking for, is a bridge, a bonus year of winning before they're really ready to start winning with some of the young players. I hope they're not looking at it that way, but it's very likely that they're looking at it as, hey, we got to get back to winning sooner than later. Some of us aren't going to be here, so let's make a little gap bridge until the other guys are ready. Now, some guys might be ready sooner. Alcantara's a little bit further behind. We've already seen PCA. Did you see the play he made in yesterday's game? If you didn't watch, it was classic PCA. It had to remind you of Javi Baez running the bases, right? That's when he runs the bases, it's like watching Javi do the crazy Javi stuff, lifting the hand up, running to first, back and forth. But this was, he runs to second, they throw the ball into center field, and they're kind of lollygagging around out there to go get the ball. He takes one peek at it, and the jets are on. He's like Maverick, right? The glasses are on, and he is flying home. They're not paying attention. By the time they realize it, he's home.
Yeah.
And it first of all, to play like that in Cactus League play, I love it. I'm glad don't get me wrong, glad there wasn't it didn't lead to anything. But that part of him reminds me of, dare I say, Pete Rose. Not same players, but Pete Rose is a guy who was running guys over in an all-star game. I love that PCA takes a Cactus League game, 6 games in. By the way, the Cubs are 6-0. He takes a game, 6 games into Cactus League play, and he's like, you're going to lollygag it on me? I'm going to turn on the Jets and make you look bad to your franchise. And I loved it. So if we're talking about exceeding projections, is really the only way they're going to win. That's what the general manager and president is really, he's told us that, Chet. Yeah. The president has said, we got to exceed projections. PCA, what are his projections after a season in which it was a bit of a roller coaster? And by roller coaster, really, it was slow and then it was good at the very end.
Yeah.
So what are the projections, and are they fair? What do we think? Shane Newbank says Pete Crow equals Pete Rose. I'm not saying that. I just love that he thinks every game matters, even if it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I love that he's going 100% on a Cactus League game. As long as it's not something that's going to get him hurt and he loves to run, do it.
Yeah. Before we get into the numbers of these projections, what it reminded me of, there was a game, I don't remember what year it was, but I believe it was against Milwaukee, and Javi Baez stole second. They threw the ball into the outfield. It was either that or someone singled, and he scored from first because the Brewers fumbled the ball in the outfield.
Vintage Baez.
I can't remember what exactly happened, but that's what it reminded me of. It's actually so perfect that the two were traded for each other because they're just the same guy. I think PCA can. I don't know if he definitely won't ever have the power numbers, but maybe as an overall hitter, maybe he could be better than Javi one day, at least in Javi's prime. But man, he creates chaos, dude. Just so much chaos. And that, it was like when you watch the play, Cactus League or not, those guys in the outfield, they were just like, you said lollygagging. I just feel like his speed puts pressure on guys. And because of that pressure.
But most guys would just slide into second and Cactus League, dust themselves off and be like, okay, that's my day.
He's putting in 100% effort here, right? The thing that impresses me and makes me dream about him being just a special type player. This guy, these players in the outfield in that particular play, whether they're trying hard or not, his speed puts so much pressure on them that they're fumbling the ball and they're not getting the ball into the infield. And this guy's so fast that he scored from first on this play. And you can't teach speed, man. You can't teach that. And it's like,
you're also going to have to live with a few base running mistakes.
I'm sure
if he's going to be that aggressive. That's the way it's going to go. By the way, we've heard Craig Counsell multiple times already this spring say, listen, he is not a completed work.
Right.
He's going to go through ups and downs, Pete Crow-Armstrong this season. We just want him to be on a more steady path to being that complete player that we know that he can be. So they know that there are going to be dips. We know there are going to be highs and lows. Will it be electric at times? Yes. Will it be Yes, probably. But his numbers last year, where he ended up, he finished 237 batting average, 286 OBP, an 87 WRC plus, and an F4 of 2.7. He had 10 home runs. So the projections for this year, after watching that play, I look at the projections that they have on Fangraphs and I say, they're sleeping.
Yeah.
They're sleeping on our guy PCA. I think there's a real good chance it's more consistent than it was last year. Not perfect, but more consistent. They have everything going up. They have his numbers all improving, but just slightly. 16 homers is the one that I feel a little bit better about in the projection. I feel like that part of the projection might be close, but I think they're low on F4, just creeping up 0.2.
Yeah.
I think they're low on WRC plus. I think they're low on base percentage, and I hope they're low on batting average. But even if they're not, even if he's batting 246 and he's playing like this and he has a little more pop,
it's a really good player.
It's a good player.
His defense alone could make him a 2-win player. So it's like if he hits at a league average rate, which they have him at a 98, which is just 2% below league average. It's basically league average, right? If he's a 110 WRC plus, hell, I'll go 105. If he's a 105 WRC plus, and you know he hits 250, and maybe that on base is more between 310 and 320, and he slugs over 400 because of the 16 homers. Like, yeah, dude, like this guy could be this guy could be a 4 or 5 win player. Like outside of just that the chaos play yesterday on Sunday, he had 3 hits. One of them was a double, and it didn't look like a double, but he's so fast that he just got there. It didn't look like a single, but it wasn't. I think a lot of players, depending on their speed, that's probably more of a single than it is a double. And it was an easy double for him on that play that I'm referencing right now. So this guy, I'll continue to say it, man. The sky's the limit. He's not going to be your perennial 3-4 hitter, but he's so toolsy. Toolsy, the defense, the base running.
He's met Sammy.
And he's going to be a fan favorite for a long time if he produces because the personality is there. We talk, like I tweeted the other day, like Kyle Tucker's interviews are dry, but he hits baseballs at an elite level. So
you're okay with it.
I'm okay with it. Like if PCA has that personality and hits to go with that defensive base running, like he will easily, he will have the most uniforms on fans' backs at Wrigley Field over the next 5 years.
Oh, speaking of uniforms, we haven't mentioned that. How do you feel about the switch to 4?
I mean, it suits him more.
I like it better than 50.
Shout out to Jed for hitting that jump shot.
4. You like that?
Yeah.
I kind of like the number. I can't think of Cubs that have worn the number 4. I think Glenn Allen Hill, was he?
It just
4?
Again, it just suits him. He was wearing a lineman number. I feel
Cubs
like if he
Cubs that have worn number 4.
If he was ever to wear a big number, it's got to be something like
I want to say Glenn Allen Hill for a brief moment.
He's got to. If he was going to wear a big number, he's got to wear like 94 or something.
Took Canario's number. Legend Eric Sogard, Tony Kemp.
Oh, we're not allowed to mention Sogard.
Ryan Friel.
Brendan won't let us mention Sogard. We shouldn't say the name Sogard.
Jason Dubois and Doug Glanville. Glenn Allen Hill.
Glenn Allen Hill. How about that for a memory? You guys say I'm old. Sometimes the spiders get out of the way.
Billy Williams wore 4 as a rookie, and then he switched to his number.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's good or bad news that he switched.
Well, we still might retire number 4 someday. You never know.
Maybe.
You never know. Okay, Cody. Here's where I like to play mystery guy. By the way, I think it was Evil Wax in there saying if he could raise his OBP, he's going to have a big season. Right? And I would agree with that.
286 on base last year. So, yeah, I mean, even 300 is a big improvement. But
so let's play what type of player could he be? Who does he remind you of? So I was just, right before the show, Sean and I were talking, and I was like, hey, give me some guy. Let's look at some numbers and see if we can take a first full season. I don't even want to count that first 11 games or whatever it was that he played that was just, we're going to erase that from our memory. Mm-hmm. We're just going to count 2024 as his full rookie season. That's everything. That's what we're counting. And now we're looking at the projected numbers. I've got a mystery player here where we look at his rookie season, about the same amount of games played, and this player had a better batting average, a better OBP, a WRC plus of 97, but a WAR of 0.7, and just 4 home runs.
Less power, worse defense, similar speed.
Yes.
This is a Cub?
No, this is just another player.
Oh, okay.
This is just another player that everybody's going to know the name. You'll know the name. When it's a baseball name you'll all know. His second full season. So here's the jump that we're talking about PCA trying to make. The second full season for this player, he actually dropped. He went from a 266 hitter down to 260. His OBP also dropped. His WRC plus went from 97 to 94. His WAR did go up to 1, and he hit 2 more home runs. So this was not a perfect climb for this player. Okay?
Okay. I don't know who we are talking about, so.
This player went on to have what I think if people saw, we would say, PCA, if he became this player someday, you'd probably be pretty good with it.
Okay.
That's just a feeling.
Well, hey, let's get some answers.
Who do you
some
think
guesses off the list already? Shane says Ohtani.
It's not it's not Ohtani. But we're talking about a player, same position, okay? Yeah. Same position, who came in highly touted, had a first season that was okay, that was a rookie. Second season was almost less of that. So took a step back. I don't think that's going to happen with Pete Crow-Armstrong. I really don't. And that's why I think the projections are low. But this shows you that even if it did happen, it wouldn't be time to fold up the cards and run out of the room.
Fair.
Anybody have a guess at the mystery player? Godfather's saying it is not Ricky Henderson.
Not Ricky Henderson.
I don't know what Ricky Henderson's numbers would have been those first 2 seasons. I'm guessing better.
Also, I do want to throw out
This player's not a Hall of Famer.
Pat said PCA reminds him of a young Kenny Lofton. Kenny Lofton should be a Hall of Famer. It's not Kenny Lofton.
Cubs
Former Cub.
Kenny Lofton's numbers as a 25-year-old and 26-year-old are insane. PCA younger than Kenny Lofton at that age. But Kenny Lofton in his first 2 years stole 66 and 70 bags. PCA hit more homers just last year. Lofton over those 2 years had 6 homers. PCA at 10.
Yeah.
But Kenny made such great contact. I mean, a 285 average his rookie year, 325 average. That's the thing. It's just there's no elite contact. I think Pete brings elite defense, speed, and it seems like he's got a decent amount of power for his body.
Yeah. And he brings something different than this mystery player does too. He's not that same player. So they're not identical mixes, but I think the ages we're talking about aren't super far off, right? This mystery player is younger than those first 2 seasons for Kenny Lofton, I believe.
I would give it away to Cody by looking it up. So hold on.
Okay, we're not going to look it up.
I'll look it up on my phone.
I have no idea who
You guys ready for the big reveal?
Hold on. Wait. Let's. I
Godfather,
got get this in a
Shane's-
second.
Sean's going to look this
That
up on
player
his phone.
was in his rookie year. I think we tried to make sure that they were close to.
I think he was 22.
ages. He was in his first, had the minor league years.
Billy
He
Hamilton's
was-
a good guess.
Yeah, 23 and 24.
23 and 24, so slightly older than PCA, but again, highly thought of. Billy Hamilton, it was a name that actually popped up when we started searching this. The mystery player is You Go, We Go, Dexter Fowler.
Oh, okay.
With
So
the
it was a
Colorado
Cub.
Rockies.
All right. But it
And-
was with the Rockies.
But
okay.
you look at those numbers, and a couple, Sean found some things that were different in there. The home run thing surprised me, first of all, because to only have 4 and 6, he had 10 home runs in his first 2 seasons, and he's playing at Coors Field.
Yeah.
He's playing at Coors Field with the thin air. And obviously, he turned out to be a player that helped win the Cubs a World Series, and his power also helped the Cubs win the World Series. It wasn't even there. That wasn't even in his game early on.
Wow. Yeah, he didn't take off until, like his 4th or 5th year there, at least according to what I'm seeing.
It was
on the
much
screen.
later, and obviously his best was with the Cubs.
Right. His best season. was-
Dare we say he greatly exceeded projections
but
for the Cubs.
I think we can.
Yes.
I think we can
That's
all.
that's the kind of stuff they're talking about.
Is it?
But yes, Dexter Fowler.
Is it fair based off potential? Is it fair to say that PCA could easily be better than Dexter Fowler by the like in 5 years?
If you're just looking at the stats, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he's just not going to be that same type of player. Now, could he eventually be a leadoff guy just like Dexter Fowler? Yes, but probably a slightly different version of that. He's got way more speed than Dexter Fowler, but we've heard counsel say, yes, we look at him as a guy who could be our leadoff man sometime in the future, but this will not be the year.
Yeah.
This will not be the year. We got other guys, and we're into developing him more than we are saying, you need to be the lead guy in our offense. You need to be the first batter. So that's not happening this year. But could you see it happening? Well, yeah, because of the way what he did yesterday. He gets on base and it's a home run the next thing you
3
know.
hits he had on Sunday. Yeah.
Swaggy McNoleg saying Dexter didn't have the base stealing like PCA. The other two that I throw out, one you just completely shot down. I thought it was a pretty good comp. Rocco Baldelli of the Tampa Bay Rays plays great defense.
I want him to be better than
kind
that.
of a 5-tool player. Well, you just don't. Baldelli was really good in his first 2 years. The reason he wasn't good altogether was of injuries. So, I mean,
We don't want that either.
If PCA is a Grady Sizemore, you won't be upset because Grady Sizemore was great. But the other guy I was throwing out there, and here are the comps: rookie year, 258 batting average, 296 on base percentage, 7 home runs, a 74 weighted runs created plus, 2.7 F4. Second year, 229 batting average, 287 on base percentage, 3 home runs, 64 weighted runs created plus, 1 F4. This player is worse when it comes to swinging and missing. He's a little bit more potent to swinging and missing, but he's got the speed and defense similar to PCA. These numbers look a little tough for the rookie comp, but he ended up being a better player after his first 2 seasons at a certain team, and then he moved to a different team and kind of flourished a bit.
We also played with the idea of former Cub Jerome Walton, who was Rookie of the Year. Again, different era, so the numbers are a little bit further away. I just thought that Dexter's much closer in time in the timeline of Cubs baseball. The game's a little, it's more similar now than it was back then. And obviously, as Rookie of the Year, he had a really good season. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see what PCA is made of.
So
I
the
saw
numbers-
Chef saying they should have drafted PCA instead of Ed Howard. Well, now they have both.
I'm confused. The numbers you showed, those were Rocco Baldelli's.
No,
So
those are-
I was going to throw out Rocco Baldelli's.
He
These
wanted
are
to. That's Dexter Fowler.
this is
The
Carl.
rookie
No,
comp.
this is Carlos Gomez.
Oh, okay. That's
I made my own. We have
Oh,
two
you
rookie
made your.
comps.
Oh, this is
Yeah, so
Sean's rookie.
Yeah, I
comp.
thought. I
see that.
I really
graphic.
felt
Now,
like you were pushing the Dexter thing because of 2016.
Well,
So I
if
think
you're
that,
going home to your friend and you say, "Hey, you should see what the numbers are comped," he's actually had a better first season than Dexter Fowler.
Yeah. Well, and Evil Wax saying those numbers are terrible. 2.7 WAR and 1 WAR is what you're focusing on because again, the defense isn't really as equated because of the hitting. But I think they're just similar. I mean, PCA had a very low batting average, but when he was making contact, he was hitting the ball hard.
Yeah.
He's obviously stealing bases like Gomez. Gomez was once a 24 homer and a 40 stolen base guy, giving good defensive center field prowess. It took him a bit to get there. He had trips in New York, Minnesota before landing in Milwaukee. Hopefully that's not the case for you guys in PCA. But I could see him having some fluctuation just because the contact isn't there, but he's always going to bring speed and defense.
Yeah.
Dexter Fowler was exciting. You go, we go. PCA could be the next one to take it over. He just might be Dex Fowler 2.0. We'll find out.
Or Carlos Gomez. Let's hope it's.
We can go with that too.
It could be. I don't really know. I'm not putting too much stock into what he can be in year 2. It's just more about I just want to see gradual progression from last year.
I think it's going to be better than what's projected, and that should make Jed Hoyer and Cubs fans very, very happy.
Absolutely.
Thanks for checking out CHGO Cubs Podcast. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out, please. Please. We had good audio today.
And thanks for dealing with my cold, by the way, too.
And the cold. We'll be back tomorrow live at 1:30. We think we're going to have a live guest from there. Hope you'll join us then. Until then, fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.
Dex Fowler. All right, we saved Miguel.